Hello there and good evening. I'm Karim Zakari and you're watching World News program on All 24 News Channel live from the capital Algiers. Up next are the top stories. The Zionist occupation freed 1,968 Palestinian prisoners while the resistance released 20 captives, a move praised worldwide. Coming up next, 40 containers of weapons bound for the Zionist entity arrived in Tangier, sparking outrage over Morocco's forced normalization. Also in our news, Sahrawi President Brahim Ghali rejected shady deals and urged respect for international law as Russia backed the UN peace plan. And later on, Sonatrach signed a $5.4 billion deal with Medad Energy, marking a major step in Algerian Saudi energy cooperation. All this and more shortly. Welcome back to the program. It's great to have you with us tonight. First up in our news, nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners were released on Monday under Al-Aqsa flood exchange deal. Buses from the Red Cross rolled into Ramallah, where families waited to welcome their loved ones. Among the freed, 250 serving life or long sentences, with 154 deported to Egypt. In southern Gaza, 38 buses carried more than 1,700 others to the Nasser compound in Khan Yunis. On the other side, Hamas completed the first phase of the swap, handing over 20 living Zionist prisoners in two batches. It also announced it would hand over the bodies of 4 others killed during the Zionist assault on Gaza.
Thank God we are relieved to have checked on our family. May God have mercy on our martyrs and on all deceased and grant patience to our people in Gaza. We ask everyone to pray for all the young men still in prison. They are suffering a lot, exhausted and struggling. Prison has become extremely difficult for people these days. Please keep praying for them.
Thank God the war is over and our sons have been released from the Israeli prison. Our hearts are finally at peace. We hope, God willing, that all the remaining prisoners will also be freed soon. Today is truly a joy beyond measure. May every mother feel the same happiness as I feel today. My son has been in prison for 2 years. Do you know what 2 years mean? May God bring peace to all their hearts.
On a similar note, Palestinian resistance factions in Gaza say they are sticking to the prisoner swap deal as long as the occupation does too. In separate statements, Al-Qassam brigades and Al-Quds brigades stress their push to end the war of extermination from the very start, accusing the Zionist entity of sabotaging efforts for political gain and revenge. Meanwhile, Al-Quds brigades released footage showing the final moments before handing over occupation Israeli soldier to the Red Cross as part of Al-Aqsa flood exchange deal. In the same context, a wave of cautious hope is sweeping through Palestinian communities after 2 years of war, blockade, and imprisonment. Thousands of detainees are on the brink of freedom, a moment many see as the first crack in a long, brutal status quo. More details with Karim Mustfawi now.
A tremendous day for the world. It's a tremendous day for the Middle East.
Those were the words of US President Donald Trump during a historic summit held Monday in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, an event attended by several world leaders and aimed at sealing a peace agreement to end the genocide in Gaza as outlined in Trump's plan. The Republican president hailed the ceasefire as a hopeful new beginning, stressing that the reconstruction must be the next step.
In one sense, it's so horrible that it could have taken place, but in another sense, it's so beautiful to see a new and beautiful day is rising, and now the rebuilding begins. The rebuilding is maybe going to be the easiest part. I think we've done a lot of the hardest part.
Spanish Foreign Minister José Manuel Álvarez also underlined the crucial need to uphold the ceasefire and guarantee the swift delivery of humanitarian aid to Gaza.
We have to really work to consolidate this ceasefire. We have to work for the reconstruction, for the entrance of massive humanitarian aid to meet not only the hunger, but the very basic needs of the Gazati population. And at the end, we have to implement the two-state solution.
For their part, both the President of the European Council and the UK Prime Minister acknowledged the significance of the moment, but warned that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges.
Challenge now is tomorrow and implementation, and therefore yes, today is historic, but what happens tomorrow really matters. And that's why what I've been discussing with leaders all day is what part can we play.
Today is a day of hope for peace, but we have a long way ahead of us.
Meanwhile, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called to turn the ceasefire in Gaza into lasting peace. The ceasefire may have opened the door, but what comes next will test every promise made in Sharm el-Sheikh. From securing humanitarian access to rebuilding chartered communities and ultimately reviving the two-state solution, the real work now shifts from declarations to delivery.
And in reaction to this development, countries and international bodies have welcomed the start of the prisoner exchange deal between Hamas and the Zionist entity. China, for example, said that the handover, or Hamas's handover, is to be praised, calling it a step toward regional stability. Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz described it as a move toward peace in the Middle East, while Britain's Prime Minister called the exchange a crucial step toward ending the war. Meanwhile, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres urged all sides to build on this momentum and end the nightmare in Gaza, voicing his support for the deal's first phase. For his part, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has criticized Trump's Gaza plan, calling it extremely vague on the creation of a Palestinian state. Speaking to Arab media, including our channel, All 24 News, Lavrov stressed that any lasting solution hinges on establishing an independent Palestinian state, noting that Trump's proposal only tackles short-term humanitarian issues in Gaza.
President Trump has put forward his plan, which we have repeatedly described as the best proposal currently on the negotiating table. Of course, it does not fully resolve the Palestinian issue, but it offers a chance to stop the bloodshed and address the severe humanitarian problems that the population faces as soon as possible. Of course, a long-term settlement of the situation is only possible through the implementation of UN resolutions on the creation of a Palestinian state. We have noted that Donald Trump's peace plan only addresses the Gaza Strip. It mentions statehood, but in rather general terms, these approaches will need to be specified.
Similarly, EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas says the bloc will restart its civilian mission to monitor the Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt on Wednesday, backing hence the ceasefire deal. In a post on X, Kallas said the EU is ready to do its part, calling the truce a rare moment of hope in the Middle East. And in the meantime, Gaza's health ministry says 63 bodies, including 60 recovered from under the rubble and 39 wounded, were brought to hospitals in the past 24 hours. The ministry adds the death toll from the Zionist assault has climbed to 67,869, with more than 170,000 wounded. Dozens are still missing under the rubble and scattered in the streets. Moving on to other regional news now, Morocco's BDS movement has a new Maersk ship carrying more than 40 containers of hazardous cargo has docked at Tangier port, bound for the Zionist entity. The group slammed authorities for allowing Zionist armed ships to dock and criticized prosecutors in Rabat for rejecting a complaint calling for an investigation into the use of Moroccan ports to support the genocidal war in Gaza.
We submitted a reminder and provided confirmed information indicating that there is currently a shipment in the Mediterranean Sea which is scheduled to be transferred tomorrow to the occupiers' allies. It carries dangerous materials or samples. We had warned that these materials were heading toward the entity, but the Office of the Public Prosecutor refused to receive this reminder from us, stating that other measures should be taken instead.
On a similar note, Moroccan activists are accusing the Mahsen regime of forcing normalization with the Zionist entity against the people's will. Aziz Hanawi, head of the Moroccan Observatory Against Normalization, told protesters outside Parliament in Rabat that popular mobilization will continue until all agreements with the Zionist entity are scrapped.
We do not accept unworthy practices, corruption, or the weapon of normalization that some want to impose by force on our free people. The Hirak will not stop. Resistance and vigilance will continue in all public places until the liberation of Palestine.
Moroccan journalist and academic Abu Bakr al-Jamai says the real source of Morocco's political crisis is the king, not the government. Speaking with members of the Generation Z movement on Discord, the former Le Journal editor warned that the monarchy's grip on power and wealth threatens the country's stability. He slammed those blaming corruption on the Akhanouch government while sparing Mohammed VI and accused the Mahsen regime of using political police to intimidate activists and crack down on dissent.
We have a political police force that terrorizes citizens. This is not just my claim. Such serious violations have not been seen in Morocco for decades. This has been stated in United Nations reports. It was confirmed by impartial UN committees monitoring investigations into sensitive cases, and those investigations revealed extremely serious abuses.
Still with regional news, this time Sahrawi President and Polisario Front leader Brahim Ghali has reaffirmed his commitment to the Sahrawi people's right to self-determination. Speaking at the 50th anniversary of Sahrawi national unity, Ghali said he's ready to work with international efforts to end what he called Africa's last colony. He rejected what he described as suspicious attempts to undermine the legal status of the Sahrawi issue at the UN Security Council.
Amid dangerous attempts to undermine the legal status of the Western Sahara issue, including the promotion of dubious solutions and related to the UN Charter, where you affirm the Sahrawi side's commitment to implementing international legality and honoring the agreement between the two parties to the conflict, the Sahrawi people through their sole legitimate representative, the Polisario Front and the Kingdom of Morocco.
Similarly, Sahrawi President Brahim Ghali also slammed the EU for what he called blatant complicity in looting Western Sahara's resources and demanded the cancellation of all illegal deals with Morocco.
Today we are witnessing a blatant collusion to legitimize agreement with Morocco aimed at the plundering and theft of the natural resources of Western Sahara in flagrant violation of international law and European law led by well-known parties, particularly France and Spain, who reaffirm the Sahrawi side's openness to dialogue with the European Union and other partners on issues related to the natural resources of Western Sahara.
In a related context, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says Moscow fully backs the UN plan to resolve the Western Sahara conflict. Speaking to All 24 News Channel in Moscow, Lavrov stressed that any acceptable solution must satisfy all parties and uphold UN and Security Council resolutions on the issue.
There is a United Nations Security Council resolution on how to resolve the Sahara issue through the self-determination of the people of Western Sahara. This problem has lasted for over 50 years. We know that Morocco has not rejected the principle of self-determination, but we believe that this principle can be implemented in the form of autonomy. For us, an acceptable solution is one that satisfies all parties, and this option has been affirmed in the UN Security Council resolution.
And in national news, a historic $5.4 billion deal has been signed between Algeria's Sonatrach giant and Saudi Arabia's Medat company to develop hydrocarbons in the Elysee South area, about 100 kilometers south of Ain Minas. Sonatrach CEO called it a model for strong air partnership, while Saudi officials said the project will be a springboard for major future investments in Algeria. Let's get the details with Zahra Khurjani now.
With an investment value of nearly $5.4 billion, Algeria and Saudi Arabia take a major step forward in energy cooperation, marking the signing of the first hydrocarbons contract between Sonatrach and Medat Energy North Africa.
This contract is in fact the result of constructive cooperation between the Algerian and Saudi sides. It concerns the exploration and the exploitation of hydrocarbons within the contractual perimeter of Elysee South. It spans 30 years with the possibility of a 10-year extension and includes a 7-year exploration period. The total investments allocated for it are estimated at approximately $5.4 billion, of which $288 million is dedicated to exploration.
The project, known as Elysee South, will be developed under the fast-track model, a strategic venture expected to produce nearly 1 billion barrels of oil equivalent. Beyond its economic scale, it reflects a shared commitment to innovation and sustainable growth.
Our investment project named Elysee South, which will be implemented under the fast-track model, represent a highly strategic and qualitative step with a total value of $5.4 billion. It is expected to produce a volume of gas equivalent to approximately 1 billion barrels of oil. We believe this partnership will serve as a gateway to a major investment momentum, strengthening cooperation between our two countries, not only in the hydrocarbon sector, but also across related industrial and service sectors, both upstream and downstream.
Under Algeria's new Hydrocarbons Law 1913, this agreement represents a modern, transparent and attractive framework for foreign investment, reinforcing both countries' commitment to building a sustainable energy future.
The Algerian-Saudi cooperation in the hydrocarbons sector represents a model of promising Arab partnership based on mutual trust and shared interests. Moreover, it is a sincere expression of the deep and exceptional fraternal relations between Algeria and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, relations that continue to witness steady growth across various fields.
This is a historic day for Saudi and an Algerian partnership. This contract represents a starting point rather than an end in itself, a launchpad for future projects. It also serves, in truth, as an encouragement for the Saudi private sector to invest in North Africa, particularly in a beloved country like Algeria.
This milestone sets the foundation for stronger Algerian-Saudi cooperation, driving energy production, attracting investment, and opening new horizons for industrial and technological partnerships, a step forward toward a sustainable and diversified future for both nations.
Elsewhere in Africa, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has warned that the UN mission in Libya is under serious threat due to its limited impact without a real political shift. In a report to the Security Council, Guterres said Libya still faces the political and security challenges, with ongoing divisions and rival power centers blocking national unity and undermining state institutions. In another topical development, French President Emmanuel Macron has rejected growing calls for his resignation, insisting he'll stay in office until 2027. Speaking in Sharm el-Sheikh at a peace summit, Macron accused his rivals of trying to destabilize the country and made it clear he has no plans to step down.
It is everyone's duty to work towards stability, not to gamble on instability. I'm here in my role as a guarantor of our institutions, the role I exercised last week. Like all French people, I have seen many comments that have not been commensurate with the events. I ask everyone to pull themselves together and work with rigor and respect.
In the same context, French Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu has unveiled a new government made up of both technocrats and politicians, even as parties threaten to pull their support. The Republican Party has already moved to expel 6 of its ministers who joined the cabinet, a sign many say points to a shaky start and a government on thin ice. More with Yassine Rictina.
France's newly reappointed Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu faces a crucial week as he gets ready to deliver his general policy speech to the National Assembly on Tuesday, a moment that could decide the fate of his government.
The only objective and only mission is obviously to overcome this political crisis in which we find ourselves and which has stunned some of our fellow citizens, which may also astonish part of the world that is watching us and on which the responsibility, yours, mine, ours, before the country and perhaps to some extent before history, obviously demands a commitment at every moment.
After days of political chaos, his appointment, quick resignation and fast reappointment, Lecornu now faces the tough task of winning enough support to survive a no-confidence vote. On Monday, both the far-right National Rally and the left-wing France Insoumise said they would file censure motions, calling it a government of confusion.
I think this government is a farce and that it will obviously fall, since there is no possibility of suspending the pension of reform with the people who are part of it. So we will choose censure, like us and like the majority of the Assembly.
Everything now rests on the Socialist Party, which is demanding the immediate and complete suspension of the 2023 pension reform. Without their backing, Lecornu's government could fall just days after being formed.
And we will table a motion of censure in the coming hours because once again, the French people are now waiting for a political breakthrough. The ambition I share with Marine Le Pen and Eric Ciotti is to give France a stable and united majority.
Another Council of Ministers meeting is set for this morning at the Élysée Palace, where the government will unveil draft budgets for the state and social security before sending them to Parliament. Once one of Emmanuel Macron's most loyal allies, Lecornu now finds himself walking a political tightrope in a fractured parliament and a country tired of constant political turmoil.
And in another story, a Ukrainian delegation led by Prime Minister Yulia Sviridenko has headed to the U.S. for talks on more air defense systems amid Russia's ongoing attacks. Discussions will also focus on protecting Ukraine's battered energy infrastructure, which has taken heavy hits from Moscow as winter closes in. China's shipbuilding industry has made major strides over the past 5 years. Li Yangxing, Secretary General of the China National Shipbuilding Industry Association, said the sector has hit a new level of capacity during the 14th five-year plan. He added that China is expanding its global partnerships and staying firmly integrated with the world economy. And finally, it's time to catch up on other news stories making headlines in the news in brief, this time with Salman Asib.
US President Donald Trump warned that Washington could send Tokamak missiles to Ukraine if Moscow doesn't put an end to the war. Speaking to reporters on Monday, Trump said if no settlement is reached, he'll greenlight the delivery of Tokamaks to Kyiv, a move Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has been urgently pushing for. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent confirmed on Monday that President Trump will meet Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea later this month in a bid to ease simmering trade tensions. He said recent contacts between the two sides had been constructive, with more meetings expected in the coming weeks. Portugal's far-right Chega party suffered a major setback in local elections, clinching only 3 out of 308 mayorships, far short of its projected 30. Its vote share plunged to 12% from 23% in May. Despite coming in third nationally, Chega was overshadowed by independents and the Communist Party. Analysts say the party still lacks real grassroots strength beyond its leader André Ventura. The centre-right PSD came out of the top with 136 mayors, followed by the Socialists with 128. Algeria's national team wrapped up their final training session Monday evening in Tizi Ouzou ahead of Tuesday's decisive World Cup qualifier against Uganda. The tactical session saw high energy and strong team spirit as the Desert Warriors look to steal a win and cement their place at the top of Group G.
And with this, we reach the end of our news for tonight. Thank you for tuning in to our channel. Until next time, have a good one.